Welcome back to another episode where myself and the co-founder of Agency, Gilberto, are cutting through the noise to debunk some of the most common myths about running an agency. Look, if you think saying yes to every client, juggling 1,000 tasks, being a jack of all trades is the key to success, think again. We are diving into why efficient systems, specialized service, and strategic client communication are the real drivers to sustainable growth and scalability. Get ready to learn how building a strong foundation leads to visible success, the importance of guidance in business growth, and why agencies should hire micro specialists instead of searching for unicorns. So if you're serious about growing and scaling your agency the right way, stay tuned. Let's get into it. In this one, we're going to be jamming through common agency myths, part 2. So this is a sequel to last podcast where we went through the first round of myths, but there's so many that we wanted to get through that we couldn't do it. Gilberto, how are we doing today? What's up, brother?
Doing good, man. I'm always excited for these.
Looking good. How's Colombia?
Going good, man. Going good. Gonna do a hike this weekend, so I'm super excited for that.
Nice, dude. For some views or for some what?
Some adventure, man.
You love the adventure.
Go to the mountains over here.
So how long is a hike for you? Like, is that like a mile, 2 miles, 10 miles?
Yeah, that's like six
Dang.
to 10.
That's like
Yeah,
full
6
day.
miles. Yeah.
Do you like
Yeah.
bring the backpack?
Yeah. These are like 1-day adventures, man. Yeah.
Dang.
There's one like a pyramid mountain that's near here, and that's like, yeah, a whole like weekend. Like, no, it's a 3-day trek.
Sick.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Dope trails out there. You need to get over there at some point in my life.
Yeah,
Cool.
man.
Well, let's get into it, man. You're up first.
Yeah. One of the ones that comes up, like one of the like I think common misconceptions that definitely comes up is like if I add more services, I'm gonna like automatically just like grow the business. What are your thoughts on that? Like what would you say to that?
Yeah, to me, I feel like the people that are saying that are the people that it's a little bit of like scarcity, right? Like they're having clients who are potentially asking for multiple things. So their brain goes, okay, cool. If I add this, then I can add more to my plate, which will add more to my business, which allows me to grow the business. Like if I'm a videographer, let's call it a video agency, and the client's like, do you do like website development too? And then you're like, yeah, I guess I can do website development. Like that sounds awesome. And then you add the service just because you want to make a cut. It actually does the opposite. Like for me, like I was the guy who was a yes man and had like the scarcity brain. I wanted to say yes to everything. And we would do websites and like SEO. And what would happen is I would say yes to it and I would be super overwhelmed because I have no idea freaking how to do any of this stuff. And it would just cause a bunch of wasted time for me trying to figure out how to do website, how to do SEO. And I didn't have a system in place to actually fulfill it. And it wasn't consistent and within the guardrails of what my agency was offering. So it was ultimately just confusing and just didn't end up doing well. So I think in the short term, like maybe it'll give you a pump, but in the long term, I think it does more harm than good, in my opinion, to try to stack services and like you're not positioned properly.
Yeah.
What do you
I
think?
think people do it like to like under the misconception of like I'm gonna get there faster, like get to my like agency revenue goal faster, but it's actually doing the complete opposite of like slowing it down. Cause like the way that I see it, it's more like anchors that you're putting on the agency growth, where it's like the more that you're stacking on all these different things, you have to build out systems for each one of these on the back end to fulfill it in order to like truly scale. So it's almost like you have like 4 different agencies
Yeah,
inside of one that you're building when you're like, you know, at 10 or 20 or 30K a month. Like it just you're better off just like getting one service that you can scale with and like leading with that one. Yeah.
totally. Yeah, the time you use to build the system to fulfill that one-off project that you think is going to lead to all this business growth could be used scaling your current offer and making it repeatable, getting more case studies, getting more wins for it. So that's super dope. Dope. Here's one.
100%.
Um, Oftentimes when we're in the grind trying to get clients, we think to ourselves, "Cool, Gilberto, if I just lower my prices, I'll start to attract more clients." What do we say to those people?
Yeah. That's a common one. So basically, like the way that I view it, it's all about like value perception and then also like who you're reaching out to. So like I'll give you an example. Like in the beginning of my agency, like I would reach out like probably because of like insecurity of like I didn't have the experience. And so like I would go after like some of the more like mom and pop shops and And also like, the bigger problem was like I wasn't niching down. But the main thing for the purposes of this like question here is like I was going to mom and pop shops and like I would go for like kind of the smaller ones and like I would be pitching them like 2,500 a month or whatever. And like some of them would even laugh and stuff because like I was just like not talking to the right people. So I think a lot of the times like when I speak with agencies and like they feel like people aren't going to buy it, it's just from like number one, limited data of like not actually like talking to enough of like the right people, and then like where their pool of where they're getting prospects from is just not where it's they're aiming in like the wrong direction, right? The other thing too, like in the conversation of value perception, it's basically all about how you communicate your value, both on like the sales call. That's number one. Like that's a big like area where you can influence the perception of the value. And then the other one too is like in the ads. Like one very recent one that happened that I caught someone doing is like kind of with their messaging, they were kind of talking about like how their service like saves people money. And like, and obviously it was like an innocent mistake because, it could be that they're like cheaper than like, a big agency that charges like 5 or 10K a month. But in leading with that message, what it does is it actually attracts like not ideal clients that are coming to you because they're trying to save money. So their budgets are going to be like 1,000 a month, $500 a month instead of like what you actually want, right? But if you lead with a different type of message, which is like, for example, like saving time, then that appeals to more of like a premium client that values that more than like the price, right? The quality, working with the best. So
So what I
yeah,
hear you
those
saying
two
is like
things.
the positioning, perception, and how you're positioning your offer. And then what I also heard you say, it's like a numbers game, and you just need to talk to more people, and then defining your
Yeah.
ideals and like
To the right people. Yeah. Numbers game, like reaching out to the right people. Yeah. Cause
yeah,
you could reach out to 100 unqualified prospects and it's probably not going to turn out the wrong way. No, it's not going to turn out the right way. You might even close zero
right,
because like you're just talking to people that don't have it, that
yeah,
don't have the money to do it.
yeah. That's good. That's good.
Yeah, man. For you, like, I think a good one that you can kind of speak on, because this is super, super like common when it comes to like onboarding, is onboarding and just in general client communication is people think that agencies think that it's like, hey, if I automate the client communication, it's just going to make my business seem more impersonal. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was actually talking to an agency about this last week, and this was like verbatim what they said. They're like I'm rolling these automations out for my team, and they're like like a little bit hesitant to adapt it because like the X factor of our agency is we're very personal and we like the personal touch with our clients. And like really, um, if anything, this enhances the opportunity for you to be more personal. So like automating client communication isn't necessarily about like removing yourself. It's about like automating the redundant tasks and redundant communication, and then coming up with opportunities for you to actually add the personal touches. Like our communication, like when somebody like works with agency U, is pretty much automated, and like the whole communication platform is completely automated, and we get compliments all the time when clients sign up. They're like, this was the freaking
Yeah,
dopest onboarding experience
all
ever.
the time.
But
Yeah.
that's because Joy, who's our client success manager, has capacity to do the personal reach outs that are actually going to be needle moving for her. Because if she's so busy doing like the redundant copy and paste kind of client communication, then her capacity is shrunk to actually do the personal communication that actually moves the needle. It's like if I'm having to do all of the client communication, then my capacity is taken up doing all of the client communication that can be automated when it should be the actual heavier personal client communication that moves the needle and makes a larger impact for the customer.
Yeah, you brought up an interesting point that I like never actually thought about is that like it frees up your mental and emotional and time bandwidth so you can pour more into the client. Because like if you have several clients and like all of your time is like put into like redundant work that like honestly you shouldn't be doing, like busy work and stuff, then that takes away from like the energy and like yeah, both mentally, emotionally, and time wise that you could be pouring into the client. So like you're not really showing up at 100% because like you have all of these things and like you're the more and more that you do, like the more that your brain just feels like completely packed up to the brim
Totally.
and people go into like burnout mode. So yeah,
100%.
that was super interesting that you mentioned that.
Yeah, creates the space for it.
100%.
Um,
Yeah.
dope. Okay. I'm scaling my agency, video agency, whatever I got, and I'm running tight right now. Like I have a few clients, but not enough for me to make some hires. So, I'm just gonna handle everything myself just to save on costs.
Yeah, I think this goes like this dovetails like right on your like when you mentioned like scarcity. I think that's like in the beginning, it's easy to like kind of fall prey to that where like if you're in scarcity mode, the decisions that you're like deciding, like the decisions that you make based off of scarcity, like slow down the agency. And like if you're in that mode, like it all seems like, yeah, this is the correct line of thinking. Like it makes sense if you're in that mode, right? Like I'm saving costs and like yeah, of course this makes sense, right? But really what's happening is it's another one of those anchors where by not hiring, the way that I view it, I'll kind of give the example of like the sales team. When I first brought them on, I was under the mentality of like, oh, I don't know if I want to give away like 10, 15%. Like it kind of seems like a lot, like, like it's like 15% of like total like revenue that comes in. But what I wasn't thinking about is like I wouldn't have had that extra revenue had it not been for like the salesperson at that commission only salesperson that would have come in, right? And even when I started like compensating them even more, right, by like giving them like additional bonuses by like them generating their own leads. One of the salespeople that brought it up to me, Enrique, he was like, yeah, like if you think about it, this is like deals that you would have not otherwise had if we didn't do like set our own appointments, right? So the thinking behind it is like you can get so much farther than you otherwise would have been able to on your own by just having the team, and your profits will actually be a lot more, right? Like what you take home is actually going to be a lot more, and you're actually going to work less time. Like
Mhm.
to a certain degree in the beginning of like hiring, you're going to work more, but then eventually as they take on like the workload that you have, you're going to work less and make more, right? That's basically like what you want to strive towards. But initially, it is going to be uncomfortable. You're going to take a little bit of a haircut in profits, but the end goal, like months down the line, is you being able to like make more and work less.
Totally. Yeah, I always say like love the points on just like thinking bigger and long term and you're 100% in line. Like I always say the best investment we can make as owners, business owners is into people because like
Yeah.
especially as an agency owner, it's like I look at that as like buying real estate or investing into a stock or whatever it is. Because like if I can invest $1,000 a month, then I get 20 hours, 40 hours a week back of my time, which I can then use to go make more money. So it's like that return on that investment of this person in my time should be well worth the investment. So it's like, who can you invest into and build up and have them do really well so that you can buy back your time and then invest. It's pretty much reinvesting into the business. But like what you said, man, it's definitely scarcity mindset and hard to see if you're in it and you're kind of scrapping or you're just kind of getting going or you're running tight. Um, but it's an investment that will free up time in the long term, like what you said, for sure.
Yeah. I think so. I think also too, and let me know what your thoughts are on this, but like personally for me, like once I started hiring like my first VA, like I started to see like the benefits of it, right? Like it's one thing to like kind of someone telling you, but then once you experience it, it feels so nice. I think for me, like the first time I brought on my closer and I was like able to take a vacation and I saw like Stripe notifications without me having to do it, like that was one of the best feelings I've ever like had in business. It was like a milestone for me. And it was like with each hire that I made, I saw the benefits of it more. And then I just saw the advantages of it. And it just became like I like wanted to hire like even more quickly. Right. And like my mindset then switched to like, yeah, I want to hire on more rather than thinking of like, oh, this is so much overhead or whatever. Right. So I think for those listening, if you haven't hired, it's like try even just bring on like an executive assistant, right? And start like once you start seeing those advantages of like that you have on your time and mental well-being and like everything that you see from it, like you're gonna start to get hooked. It's like you're gonna start to like look for where you can hire and delegate stuff.
100%. Totally. And you get in the habit of it, and then it just becomes your new norm.
Absolutely. Yeah. 1000%. Yeah.
Oh, what do we got next?
Yeah. I think it's that other question, I can, yeah. So like, there's one that comes to mind. Like the more, like in the beginning, I think for the ones that are kind of like more of the beginning agencies, it's like the more that I offer, the more that clients are going to value this. So kind of like the value perception
Mhm.
conversation. Because one of the things I see is like, for example, you'll have like full service agencies that are at around like 10, 15K per month, or like even say 20K per month, but they do like, for example, like website design and then like SEO, and then they also run ads and they do social media posting, but then they also do like video as well. Like pretty much the entire thing like already at like 10 to 15K per month, and like they bundle it all up on like this package and stuff. What are your thoughts on that? Like, do you think that that is a good strategy like in the beginning, like to scale the agency, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's like a it's a recipe for being an employee for many different companies. Because like again, like going back to the story that I told earlier, it's like I used to do that. I used to be like, yeah, I can do anything for everybody. But what that made me was 100% the bottleneck because I was the one figuring out how to do everything. And there's no way that I could like scale that because I couldn't find a unicorn that could duplicate what Austin is doing. I have to like create systems for every single thing that I'm doing and try to train somebody and hire them and do all that stuff and have a bunch of specialists underneath of me, which would be inconsistent work for them, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's like a race to being a glorified freelancer. And then also just like what you said, positioning. It's like, what are you? Like, are you like, do you help people with like everything? Like, are you like a specialist in like what area? And like going back to the generalist versus specialist, like it's more valuable to the clients long term to be a specialist in something and have boundaries on what you can do and identify what the outcome is that they want and make your sole goal at your agency just focused on getting them to that outcome and being disciplined with that. And also like, I mean, in my experience, just like if you're juggling so many things for one person, like you'll just drop the ball and then the clients will like end up leaving you because they just see you as a service provider versus like an outcome creator. Like that was my experience. It's like we drop the ball because we don't have good systems. And then we're also just seen as like a service provider, which is the first thing that they're going to cut.
Absolutely. I think people do it because like some clients, and I've heard this before too from clients in the past, is like they'll say something like, yeah, we're looking for like an agency we can work with a one-stop shop. And it's kind of one of those things where like things that clients think they want, but then in reality, like it actually doesn't like work that way. Because really what's gonna like retain them longer is if like you're doing an absolute like great job at like solving this like one problem for an extended amount of time, rather than like you do everything, but it's like poorly and it's not up to standard as if you were to just do like one like
Yeah.
really excellently.
Totally. Totally. And be of value to them based off of it versus like, oh, this person does everything. Like I can drop them because they're not actually providing an outcome. They're
Yeah.
just doing what I
Almost
want
seem
them
like
to
a
do.
commodity almost too. Like the
100%.
perceived value then goes down because
Yeah.
others also frame themselves as that way, like full service agency, like that kind of thing.
100%. Yeah. Commodity
Yeah.
is exactly it.
Cool. What are your thoughts when people say like my systems are the problem, right? So like now where it's like a more seasoned agency, right? Like we're talking about someone who's like more like 25, 30, 50 and above, yeah, like 50 plus even.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, like, my main bottleneck is like systems. Like
Yeah.
that's what's holding me back.
Yeah.
What do you
Was talking to an agency today who was above 50K a month and um he came into agency with help for with like systems to getting that off of his plate. And as we were digging into his systems, um, realized that the systems were not actually the issue, but it was the three, four steps before that, which was the issue, which is the root, which was the offer. Okay. So the situation here, and I'm sure people listening who may be thinking this was they had multiple people doing multiple roles. Nothing was clear. It was really overwhelming on what happens when they like close a deal, who's actually doing what. And that was because the offer was muddy and each person had a different type of offer and a different type of yes, and that created all the confusion from the get. So we paused on doing anything from systems and we went back to the actual root of it, which is offer. So your problems in your agency might actually be a byproduct of something else. and it might not actually be the thing that you're working on or that you think it is. Like if you like if you think you need systems, it might actually be you need to actually dial in your offer first and then create systems around the offer and make that more clear for the team and then create systems around that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it also applies to like, yeah, like you said, like it might not always be the direct thing because like another common one that I hear is like, yeah, we just need to like find like more quality, like quality talent, or like I need help building a team. But really it's like the thing that needs to be fixed is like the systems, right? Because like if you have solid systems, then you can like actually, as long as you have like a someone who's experienced, you can create that quality, right? And then also like there's other things like for example like client acquisition, right? Like sometimes like it is like not a team thing like solely, it's like that you need to like increase the amount of revenue that comes in monthly, the like monthly recurring revenue, so that you can actually like keep the team, right?
Hmm.
Because a lot of people have like contractors that they're working with, and like they kind of just have a revolving door of people like coming through their agency. But if they had like the recurring revenue coming in to the agency, they can maintain like the same team and then be able to like actually, it's kind of like a flywheel because it actually like helps get more revenue in the door, which you can hire more, which like, yeah, it's like a beautiful kind of like revolving kind of thing, a flywheel essentially.
100%. Yeah, and like people think that they need leads, but what they really need is they needed an offer. Like that's a common
Yeah,
thing that we come across. Like people
100%.
come in like, "Oh, I need leads, I need leads, I need leads." And it's like, "No, you got to dial in your offer first." So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And
I'll
then
explain most
people
easy.
do, it's
Yeah.
it's interesting because like yeah we'll like have people that come to us and then they're like yeah we got like burned by like this program that we tried or whatever, but
Yeah.
like the thing behind it, even like the whoever was running it for them, like they were actually like just they might have been doing like what they were supposed to do or whatever with like running the ads. It's just like the offer was like the fundamental problem.
For
So no
sure.
matter how well the ads ran, like how well it was set up, it like it didn't matter because the offer what it like was like stifling them from the beginning. Yeah.
100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, Hormozy's been talking about that a lot. Like he said, if I want to build a 10-story building, I could do that. This is how you might do it. And then he like stacked these bricks, and then he like poked it, and it was like fell over really quickly. And he's like, if you gave me 10 days or 10 years to build it, you'd start with the foundation. So it's like thinking with the end in mind. And sometimes in a lot of cases of people that we're talking to, it's like we kind of got to start with the foundation and go back to the basics and start from the jump, build a really strong foundation so that we can build from so that it's actually scalable. Because like we could get them leads, but it's like if we get them leads, then like and it doesn't sell or they can't sell it or it just everything breaks, like that's just not a good service to the
Yeah.
client. It's like we got to lay this foundation first, and then once that's laid, then we can stack on top.
It kind of reminds me of like the analogy of like the bamboo, where it's like
Mhm.
these things are like so strong and tall, but like the majority of like when they're like growing is like literally like most of that time is literally like underground. All of that stuff, like just forming like the foundations. And then like I think in like the final like couple days is like where it just massively glows like in like the last couple
Yeah,
days. So it's kind of like that. It's like if you lay that strong foundation, it might not seem like very tangible at first and it kind of feels like you're not seeing much from it, but then like once you do run like ads for example or once you hire or whatever, then you really start to see like the results of it and people just take off once like they
yeah,
run ads and stuff because the
facts
foundations are there.
for sure. Facts. All right, here's a good one. Um, Cool. I got my offer. I'm ready to rock. Like talk to you, Gilberto. I just want to get my like process dialed in before I start selling this and get it in front of people. I just want to make sure I know exactly what's happening. I want to get my project management stuff. I want to get the operating system ready to go before I start getting this. I want to get my website good to go before I start talking to people about it.
Yeah, I think it stems from kind of like more of like a like being nervous and like a fear. Because like if you don't do it right, like there's this fear of like, yeah, like what if I don't do it right? Or kind of even like a for some people it's like imposter syndrome. That's the thing behind it. But I think like for me at least, because like in the beginning few clients, like all I really had, like for my first client, I didn't have like a bunch of like mortgage brokers that I'd run like ads for or whatever. But what I did have was like basically self-trust. Like I trusted myself that like I know for sure, like I will figure it out, like no matter what, like I'm gonna, I'd be willing to, and I did in some cases work like 14, 16-hour days, like literally just to like build out a campaign and make sure it worked. So it's like number one, like self-trust, like have trust in yourself that like you will figure it out, like you will make it happen. And then the other one too is like also just having the guidance. Like for me in the beginning, I had like templates that I got from someone else that was successful in running ads for mortgage brokers. And so like I just followed like the funnels that they used and like the like voicemail drops and like the text messages and all that stuff. And that gave me like it wasn't it by no means was like 100% where it's like, yeah, I just follow this and it went perfectly. Like, no, but it was like essentially like the launch pad. And it also, I had that guidance of like, all right, if it didn't go well, like I had someone who I can ask questions to so that it actually did work in my favor. So those are the two things. It's like having that self-trust in yourself that you're going to figure it out no matter what. And then also like having the guidance to just make it easier. Because if you have someone that's like got your back and like they've been there and done that, you pretty much know for sure that like, hey, this is all going to turn out okay. Like this person is doing it for plenty of people. I can confide in this person. I can trust that they're going to help me with it.
Yeah, that's good. I like the guidance piece. I did not have that, unfortunately, for my agency, so that was rough. But yeah, my point on that would be for sure like the perfectionism and like kind of overthinking it and like wanting to be perfect, which I think is all in line with like the imposter syndrome stuff. And like what I learned because I sold a lot before I had anything built for our agency was like you actually shape all the systems based off of the actual sale. And if you're spending all of the time like guessing like what's going to happen next or like guessing like how this is actually going to play out, it's not going to be the best use of your time because a lot of it's going to shape once you get the client. And I think like with the guidance, like someone like agency you, for example, where you have everything that you can just like copy and paste into your business, like I wish I had that when I first started, because I would be so confident with fulfillment that it would be a complete no-brainer. So
100%. Even on the system side, because like I know like when you and I like started in like the agency space, like the information there and like the guidance and coaching and mentorship was like
yeah,
very like basic. Like it
yeah,
was just like yeah, it wasn't like I remember because I pretty much took all of them. Was like the courses were just like very like surface level, like high level overview, but it wasn't actually like how to go out there and like get clients. That was like one of the main things. Like I was like had to figure it out on myself, kind of thing. Was like client acquisition, and like no one really even talks about like systems at all, even though it's so important to like scale past like 10, 20, 30K per month.
yeah.
So it's
Why
like
we're
having
so
those kind of like things. Yeah. Hiring too. That's like another
yeah,
one. No one talks about that. Finances,
yeah.
accounting, like I had to like search for like courses and like YouTube videos on like how do I like set up an S corp?
Yeah.
What is an S corp? Like all that stuff.
Yeah, everyone
It's
talks
crazy.
about clients, 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 clients.
100%. Yeah. I
All
think
right,
the other one too
the
that
last
comes
one.
up on the
Yeah.
conversation. Yeah, the last one here is the one that's more for like an agency that's growing, that's kind of in growth mode right now. Let's say they're like 15, 20, 25K per month plus, is like, hey, I just need someone. So like someone who is wanting to hire and they're like, yeah, I just need someone to do like multiple things in my business. I need someone that do this and this and this and this. I just need someone to like just take this over. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think a lot of agencies, like as they're growing in the situation where they start to be like, okay, I need to hire somebody, I need to get some of this stuff off of my plate. They think, cool, I can hire someone to do graphic design. I can hire someone to do like client success, reaching out, like media buying and like video editing. And they think they can find like this unicorn. And the problem with that is that that's a fast track to that quote unquote unicorn being burnt out. And it's also a fast track to
Yeah.
not finding somebody who's a specialist with the specific service that they can thrive in. So, and then, so instead, what I would suggest is finding like micro specialists for each thing that you're actually working to actually hire for. So for example, like if you think you need like a graphic designer, client success, and someone to like edit videos, that's three different people that you can find subcontractors for to start. And then you work on getting new business to get them into a ramp up phase of being full time. So it's kind of like the specialist versus generalist. Like you want to find the specialists versus the generalists. And like the thing that we do a lot for people is like the time audit and then like the start stop list. And on the stop list, like usually there's 2 to 3 different like roles. And a lot of people think that the whole stop list is like one role, and it's like, no, it's multiple people. So just having the mindset of specialists versus generalists and identifying those versus going for the unicorns and burning them out and just having cloudiness essentially.
Yeah. I think for some people too, it's like in some cases it might be that they're just like overwhelmed, like so overwhelmed and like maybe even like sort of burnt out where it's just like, just get it off my plate. Like you just give it like
Totally.
here, someone take over like all this mess, right? But then like you're actually setting yourself up for failure in that one because like then if you're not able to handle it, you're the owner, right? Like this other person is like for sure not going to be able to handle it. And then it just they'll churn or burn out. And it's
Yeah.
just a cyclical thing that happens.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
Dope, man. I think that's all we got for the day.
If you watch this and you went through all of the myths and you're thinking, dang, I believe some of these myths. I believe what they're saying, and I am that guy. I would love to help you. If you want me and Gilberto to help you one-to-one and want us to plug and play the same systems that hundreds of agencies inside of Agency U have used to get more clients, create more time freedom in their agency, and build a business that they actually like, go ahead and click the link down below in the description to book a call with our team. It'll take you to a short video and a calendar where you can pick a time that's convenient for you.